Hey everyone, James with Lenspiration here, and before you put your Christmas decorations away, I wanted to show you how I shot the latest shoot to serve photo assignment, Wisemen Silhouette. This is the photo that the publisher sent to me. The idea is to replicate the idea of this photo, and it's just a work of art. But I wanted to photograph it in camera without Photoshop. I wanted to find a way to somehow replicate this photo. So however you shoot this assignment, whether it's something creative and different, your own unique perspective, or you just duplicate what I do, I'm gonna show you how I shot this assignment, and hopefully it'll give you some ideas. So first of all, I had to think about where I was going to shoot this. Do I do it outside? Do I put a real starry sky background? Or do I try it indoors and come up with something of my own? And I decided I was going to do it inside. So I went to the dining room. We don't use the dining room very much. And was like, okay, I need some Wisemen. Where do I find Wisemen with camels? And I pulled out the manger scene, and there were no camels. There were only Wisemen. And I was like, well, where could I get some camels? And there was none over at my parents' house. I didn't have access to any. I don't know. Maybe I'll call my neighbor. Maybe my neighbor would have some camels. My neighbor usually, she knows that I do these photo assignments, and she often has things that I do not have. So I called her up and I was like, hey, would you happen to have a manger scene with camels? I can't believe this. They actually have some. Got a box. Let's go get it. And so I thanked them and brought it back over, put it in the dining room. The next thing was to see how I could make a silhouette out of these figurines. And to do that, you just need a bright light from behind. And so I pulled out my soft boxes, but you can use anything. The key is that the light is diffused. So in some way, hang a blanket and then put as much light behind that blanket as you possibly can. All the same color light. And as bright as you can from behind that blanket, shine it through, set your figurines up in front, and you can get a silhouette. Now the problem with the blanket in front was there were all these wrinkles in it. So I got my little spray bottle out and I sprayed it down, and that got rid of all the wrinkles. And once all the wrinkles were gone, I could set up my camera, got the right angle, set up all the Wisemen in the little, shed and everything I wanted to be in the scene, and got it all lined up just right so that only, the background would be all just the white, bright light. And I took a picture, and the table was reflective, and it was reflecting the light. So it was distracting, and I found a black tablecloth, put that on the table, and that solved the problem. It was very, very slippery tablecloth, so I got some bird seed, stuck it on the table so that the tablecloth wouldn't go sliding off. And I had my silhouette. Now the next part was getting the blue background. And this was a little more challenging. It took a long time to figure out how to do this. But the first thing was to measure, what size do I need? We got something that's about 4 feet. 4 feet and 2 feet visible. So then I started looking around for 2 feet wide by 4 feet wide objects, and there was this poster board that I had laying around. I thought maybe I could paint some watercolor on it, or do something with it, but it was just too small. So I had a piece of foam board, a real small piece of foam board, but I knew at my parents' house there was a much larger piece of foam board. So if that was large enough, I wanted to make a prototype. I poked a bunch of holes in the little foam board piece that I had here at the office and put it up in front of the lights. and it was yellow. For some reason, that piece of foam board turned the light yellow. And I thought, well, maybe if I get a highlighter and like draw blue on it, it would turn the color blue, but yellow light with the blue on the front made green. So that wasn't exactly what I was going for. But I went to my parents' house and I started looking around. I did a little bit of research. I'm looking around, and I was shocked at how many things I found that might be useful for this particular. The thing was, I had to poke holes in it, so it couldn't, like the tarp. I can't use Dad's good tarp, right? I think that would work very well, but I couldn't poke holes in it. So so the first thing I found that I tried to use was a piece of fabric, an old t-shirt, a big blue t-shirt. I thought maybe I could stretch that across and poke some holes in it, but fabric doesn't work very well. So the other thing I found was this plastic tablecloth. The problem was it was red, and so that couldn't really be used, and there was like lines. It was kind of interesting how there was like an interesting texture in it. I quadrupled it up, so folded it in half and then folded it in half again in order to get that real glowy red look. So it might work with a blue tablecloth. And there's a lot of other things that you could use, so just, think it through. What can you find? Cellophane, tissue paper. Be creative. See if what you can find is blue. But for me, I found an old poncho, and this poncho had holes in it already. So I brought it home. It was just barely the right length. And with that old rain poncho, I knew that this was going to work. The problem was it was all wrinkly. And how do you get wrinkles? Spraying it, I don't think would really work. So I looked it up online and threw it in the dryer. Don't put it in the dryer for very long. Like, plastic doesn't go in the dryer. Like, that's not a good idea. But for just a minute or two, and it got most of the wrinkles out. So I got all the wrinkles out of the poncho, and then I hung it up, and there was just odd texture. And it took me a while to figure out I needed to pull that blue background away from the lights. The same concept as with the white curtain. And so I just pulled the lights back and set up the background, that blue poncho, on a completely different stand. And that really helped even out the texture so that it didn't look fake in the background. And plus it made it easier to swap out as you put it up and then you take it down, because the next step was to poke holes in it. And I first used a tack, and the tack, too small holes. Then I tried using a ballpoint pen, and there were just problems with the ballpoint kind of coming out, getting stuck in the cardboard underneath it. I used a pencil, just a regular lead pencil, and poke it. And if you poke a little bit, it makes a small hole. If you poke all the way through, it makes a large hole. So you could have different variety and sizes with the holes, the size of the holes. And so I strung that up. I had to do that a couple times, going back and forth. And then I created the Star of Bethlehem. I wish I had cut it more intentionally so that you could see the beautiful shape. That would be something I would do different. But I cut a hole in it and cut it out with scissors, and it worked very well. But I wanted it to glow, so I got my flashlight out. And with my flashlight, if I stood close to the background, it would shine through as a fairly harsh circle. If I stood further away, it would look more like the star was sort of glowing. And then if I shone the flashlight through that hole and pointed the light directly into the lens of the camera, then it would create a star burst where the Star of Bethlehem was. And after doing that, was a neat, just seeing that picture coming up on my camera. I had the silhouettes, I had the blue background, and here was this like starburst. The problem was there was like lens flare up in the right corner. And so I took the UV filter off and did it one more time, and bang, the lens flare disappeared. And I had before me an in-camera photo of something very unique. I didn't know how it was going to work. I didn't even know if I could even do it in camera. I didn't know if I would need photo manipulation to pull something together. But I took it one step at a time, solved each problem as it came up, brainstormed how I was going to do it, and I think I came away with one of the most creative photos I think I have ever taken in the past. So now it's your turn to shoot this photo assignment. The details are in the description below. And if you'd like to see the photos that I took for this assignment, they are also in the link in the description below. If you'd like to watch more videos like this, feel free to subscribe by clicking on my face. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you learned a lot. Keep learning with Lenspiration, and we'll see you next time.